the Tao Te Ching, chapter 76. It's available online. Look up Tao Te Ching, Taoteching. Stephen Mitchell, the translator, has made it available online for free. And there's also a YouTube of it, I believe, in that list of, it's either in my music playlist or in the classroom yoga and such playlist, which you guys already have a link to in posts, but it's available online, being read to you. It's harder to search for a chapter, but it's in there. Anyway, I read chapter 76 of the poems and talked about an article from Massage and Bodywork, current edition, January, February, well, not current, recent, 2020. And the article by, where was it? The Rebel Massage Therapist, Allison Denny, is that her name? Anyway, it's about posture. Yep, Allison Denny, the posture movement. So if you would like to see this later, send me a message. I can send you a picture of the article. I'm sorry, I didn't record. Thought I had done that. Now we're going to go over chapter 2 answers. So hopefully you've already completed it. I saw maybe there's still might be a couple people who had not completed it, but they might not be on this call yet. So ideally do these on your own so that you get the practice and the points by attaching it to your assignment, and then you can check your answers here. So you may want to unmute when I pause looking for an answer, because it gives you a chance to participate and see if you can remember it without even looking, perhaps. Okay. What is meant by scope of practice? I've talked about that already in the end of that article, not wanting to work outside of our scope of practice. What does that mean?
It means not, like you said, not providing a service that we are not qualified to provide. Chiropractic, or like you said, depression, things like that. It's just staying in what we're taught.
Yep. We're trained all about how to touch the body and how to manipulate the body's physicality to try and help relieve pressure or pain or disrupt the pain cycle. But we're not taught any of that psychological stuff, how to counsel somebody through certain things. We might have moments where we've got to make a decision about what to say to a client, and so we want to choose wisely what we say, but we have to go in the direction of good listener, sympathetic, listening as an act of love, but not involving ourselves in the situation into which we're giving advice. Right, so the rights and activities legally acceptable according to our license, basically. Okay, in states that have massage licensing, how is the scope of practice defined?
Could you ask again? I didn't hear that.
Sure. Oh, sorry. In states that have massage licensing, how is the scope of practice defined?
As a body work?
Is it based off the certifications that you have?
There's no clear definition of it. It's
I just know that varies state by state. Requires 4 hours continuing education. Also, procedures and practices may vary state by state.
Yeah, it does differ because it's for the states that have licensing, they're going to each write their own book of laws on that. So by the definition of massage and by the educational requirements contained in the state regulation. So if each state was giving, in our state, we do have a class on nutrition. So we are trained in some basics of nutrition. So we are in some ways a general health practitioner, and we can talk about things we've learned in class. We could say, I read this book that says this and that, but you would probably need to talk to a dietitian to get more details. We can reference things we have particularly seen from a reputable source, so we can tell them what we know, or tell them what we think we remember and say, let me get back to you on this. I'd have to look up my textbook, and I can call you tonight with more of that detail that I could read out of the textbook. But besides the things that we've actually studied, we have to still keep within that scope of practice. And then if it's outside of that, we have to refer the client. And actually, it's a chance for us sometimes to empower the client to take some responsibility for their own health care, which is a problem with a lot of clients. They might want us to fix them. They might want their doctors to fix them. And they may not be somebody who's taking an initiative to look up stuff that could help them themselves. And that sometimes has been a chance to do that. You know, you could get them interested in, if they are asking you a question about something they're interested in knowing. That's a good place to start, their own curiosity. And then you could, you know, maybe relay what you have heard and that's related to that, but then encourage them to go look it up for themselves. And then sometimes that's a good empowering way to get them on the train of looking things up that might help themselves. In the United States, which jurisdiction might oversee regulations for massage?
The State Board of Massage.
The state, county, or municipality.
Yep. So regulations for massage might fall under the auspices of the state, the county, the city, or municipality, or they may not exist at all. Still a little bit Wild West about that. What is the major reason for licensing massage therapists?
To protect the public.
Yeah, primarily for protecting the public, to protect health, safety, and welfare of others. Because if we don't do that, then just any old person could say they are, and then who knows what happens. What's the role of state regulatory boards?
Overseeing testing and licensing, interpreting.
Okay. Yeah, and to upgrade the professional standards. So they create what they think everybody who's a licensed massage therapist should have done this, this, and that. They should know these things, and then we double check to make sure that they did study that stuff. What are the requirements for licensure in most states?
You must be 18 and up, have a high school diploma, complete massage therapy, complete the exam, and pay the licensing fee.
Yep, that's the list. Good. Perfect. True or false? If a massage therapist is nationally certified, she can practice anywhere in the United States.
False.
Yeah, sadly, I know. My dream was to get an RV that I could pop out the side and make a little tent, put my table out in there on the grass, you know, have some curtains, make a little traveling massage studio, live in the trailer, drive across the country.
Yes,
Sounds
That's pretty
amazing.
cool. But
that is absolutely
love
my
it.
dream, sister. I
right?
love it. Yes.
A lot of us massage therapists are, you might not be
Free-spirited.
a Aquarius, Scorpio like me, but
I'm Pisces.
what's that?
Yep.
Same.
I said I'm a Pisces. I'm pretty free-spirited.
All right, there you go. Yeah, so, you know, the dream is alive in many of us, but it's not quite that easy. So you kind of have to pick which states you're going to land in and then get certified in those states. And it's not as hard as it might seem. Like, it's not going to be doing all of this over again in each state. A lot of them you could transfer it by taking another class or two and paying that state's fee. So it's not impossible. It's just a little bit more work than it sounds to just be able to freely travel all around. If a massage therapist has license in one state, they can legally practice in a neighboring states.
False.
False.
Yeah. Each state is in a state that has massage licensing. If a licensed nurse or a chiropractor wants to practice massage, she must obtain a massage license.
True.
True.
I think it's actually false. If a licensed
This one was
nurse,
hard to answer.
yeah, nurses and chiropractors are also licensed to touch people already. And so massage is a little bit part of their practice. For chiropractors, they learn massage as part of their schooling. They're like, you know, they go to school for 4 or 6 years. And And then nurses have training in touch for health, which is a kind of massage, but it's a little bit more, massage and body work, energy work. So it's not always like the same as doing a Swedish massage, but I think it's false. They can do it. I have this red line marked next to that, even though it's false. There's a little red slashy mark, and I'm wondering now if there's some contradicting information. So I'll look into that one.
And couldn't that maybe vary, from state to state with that question? I mean, certain
It could be, yeah. It could
needs
be.
and regulations they could say, no, that nurse can do that in this state, but not necessarily in the next one,
Yeah, I think that's true. So it does probably depend on the state, but I'll have to look it up and see if I can find more info on that one. Good questions and good suppositions. The scope of practice for massage is clearly defined by national standards.
False.
False. Yep, it's different for each state. Okay, so you were supposed to mark some of these things if they were grounds for revoking, canceling, or suspending a massage license. So if you put an X next to this, then say yes. It is one of those things that would get you unlicensed. Or if there's no mark, then you can say no. All right. What about having been convicted of a felony?
Yes.
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 Being guilty of fraudulent or deceptive advertising.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Being engaged currently or previously in any act of prostitution.
Yes.
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 Yeah. Practicing under a false or assumed name.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Being accused of making sexual advances or attempting sexual acts during the course of a massage.
Yes.
Absolutely yes.
Yep, you'll be put on suspension while they investigate you. Prescribing drugs or medicines, unless you are a licensed physician also.
Yes.
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 Charging extremely high fees for the services provided.
No.
No.
Yes.
No, you won't get your license
No.
revoked for that. It might be problematic in some other ways, but you won't get suspended just for that.
It's just rude.
Addicted to narcotics, alcohol, or like substances that interfere with the performance of duties.
Yes.
Yes.
Being guilty of fraud or deceit in obtaining a license.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Selling nutritional products or other non-massage related items.
No.
No.
No, you won't be suspended just for that. It does come up sometimes as an ethical consideration because when we are massage therapists, our whole purpose is, we put it on mute for just a second. I've got this. It's hard to hear myself, let alone the recording. Probably be hard to hear. Okay, pretty good. So as a massage therapist, our mission is to help the client in sort of like a client-centric way, unselfishly. For that hour that they've paid us for our service, we're focused on their well-being. And sometimes when somebody sells things in their practice, they're motivated to recommend those things to everybody, regardless of whether the client needs it or not. And so that could be an ethical gray area where you're kind of stepping over into your personal gain and profit versus that person's needs. Does that make sense? And the other part of that that's really common is multi-level marketing products. I love essential oils as much as the next girl, but I have made the decision not to have a retail license, not to sell essential product or essential oils from those companies in my practice because they are highly motivated by your personal amount of sales. So if I get my clients signed up as a person below me on that multi-level thing, then I'm making more money every time they sell. So I'm really motivated to try to sign people up. That's how those work. And so if you're selling that kind of stuff and you're promoting yourself as a multi-level marketing salesperson as part of your on the other side of your practice, it can ethically conflict with, are you there just for your client's well-being, and are you just trying to help them with their issue right now, versus are you trying to make a buck off of them with this at the expense of, you know, family and friends relationships, clients relationships. So I think there should be a bigger push back against those multi-level marketing products being sold in massage therapy practices, chiropractic practices, etc. But it is pretty common to see them. So it's just something I want you to know about. Last one on this list. What about being willfully negligent in the practice of massage so as to endanger the health of a client?
Yes.
True.
Yeah.
Or true.
Definitely
Yes.
a no-no. Yeah. What is license? Sorry. Distracted by.
Mute.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so what is license? Oh, I keep saying the word. A license is issued by a state or municipal regulating agency as a requirement for conducting a business or practicing a trade or profession. So you are going to be issued your license after you pass your NBLEX and you get your fingerprinting card. So once we get you through all those things at the end of the program, you can apply for your license. I help you go through that process. The school will pay for your license application and your first NBLEX test. So you can get all that stuff done before you even graduate or in the week of graduation.
Oh,
And
that's so awesome.
yeah, so we just set you up for
Totally cool.
working. Yeah, it'll help you with that process because that's kind of a lot. Beyond that, I'll try to point you into the right directions for getting your business license, which is another aspect of it that you're going to want to do. So your license to practice means you could go be an employee immediately. If you're going to become your own business, it's just a little bit more steps in that, but it's not really as bad as it sounds. And a document that is awarded in recognition of an accomplishment for or for achieving or maintaining some kind of standard is what?
Certification.
Yep, certification. So when you graduate, if you are scheduled to graduate on December 17th and you're scheduled to take your NBLEX on, I don't know, December 25th, which you won't be, that time in between, before you get your license, but after you've got your certificate from MTI, you're a certified massage therapist. Certification means you've taken all the training for it. You're qualified in that way. So it's different than licensed, but it's something. And then you can get other certifications as well. So like for me, I have some letters after my name. Besides LMT, I also have CIMI, which stands for Certified Infant Massage Instructor. So when I did that baby massage class for you, that's the stuff that I can do because I did this class that involved a long time of like practicing with families, doing homework, reading certain books, and then submitting homework and stuff to the organization that certified me. And then every year I pay them a renewal fee, or every 2 years I pay. So I get this certificate at the end of that class that I renew that says I'm qualified to do this certain thing. So that's an ongoing achievement and standard that I was awarded in recognition for that education that I did. That gives me some more letters after my name. But you'll have letters after your name, LMT, after you finish your schooling and your licensing. So that licensing will allow you to be LMT. After your schooling, you can be CMT, Certified Massage Therapist.
Can I ask something that's kind of off topic?
Sure.
Does the school help out at all with getting insurance? Because don't we need that right away?
Yeah, you do need insurance. We don't help particularly with it, except to kind of point you in the direction of some insuring companies, some bodies that do insurance for massage therapy. So there are though some student rates. So if you sign up now or anytime during the 9 months, with some companies, they'll have a different rate for a student that's cheaper. And then you still get access to some of the awesome stuff that they do. Like you can start building your website on their pages for free. when I was a student, I signed up with ABMP, so Associated Bodywork and Massage Professionals, and they sell insurance. And so I was a member of an organization, and one of the perks on their website is that it has a free website builder. And so I created a website. I used it for 2 or 3 years after I started my practice with my own website. It was like cool sounding website, like Miss Rebecca.Hollenberg@massagetherapy.com. I mean, it was like, I always like saying that to people. Wow, massagetherapy.com. She's really legit. So it has its own website, and then it also has a website that you can use. You can use your own for your own website. And then it also has stuff like free leaflets that you could customize. You put in your name and your phone number, and it'll print those on the back of a pamphlet that's already ready to go about different kinds of massage or different benefits for massage. You know, if you want a sports massage brochure, there's one already printed up, and then you just put your name on the back of it, and you can use those. You can print them. So they have some cool perks, and the insurance is cheaper while you're a student. But that would cover you for any liability if you're working on somebody and, you know, you cause an injury and then they sue you. That would cover you. So it's a good thing to do, and I do recommend it for students. But it's even better if you ask at the student rates, and then hopefully it'll work out a little cheaper for you in the long run. The last question in that section is ongoing training that is required to renew a license or certification is termed what?
Continuing education.
Continued education.
Yeah, it's one of the best parts about our job is that we are required to seek continuing education. So we get to keep looking around for classes that intrigue us, that there's some kind of field of it that we want to kind of specialize in, or some direction we really are finding more and more interesting, and we can keep seeking it out. Plus, those are tax deductible, taking those classes, because if you're a business owner, they are part of your business. So you have to do them. It's part of your requirement. So you keep your receipts from travel, your meals expenses while you're at the training, and then half of that you can write off. Books that you had to buy, you know, write those off. So you
Is it
pay
sad
for
that
it
I'm
up
really
front.
excited about that part?
What?
Is it sad that I'm really excited about that part?
No, I get excited about it. I'm a travel geek. You guys know I've lived in 5 countries. I love traveling. I just grew up with it. And I don't really get to do it as much as I did as a kid. So there's this cool spa in Costa Rica called Pura Vida, Pure Life. And they do massage therapy, continuing ed all the time. Medical massage, Watsu, which is the water one. They do Thai yoga massage. They do all kinds of stuff. And it's like a goal for me, saving up to go to Costa Rica for continuing education. So as long as you have a savings account, you're putting a little bit in every time you work, you can use that money to go wherever you want, as long as you can see that they have, you know, NCBTMB certified for massage therapy credits. You can get credit for those classes anywhere in the world. Okay, multiple choice. Scope of practice defines
Legally acceptable
A.
professional activity?
Yep, legally acceptable professional activities. A. If a client's condition is outside the massage technician's scope of practice, the technician should do what?
B.
B.
Refer them to the proper professional. Yep. The main reason for massage licensing is, we already said this one, to
C.
protect the public. Yep.
Mm.
Safety. Testing and licensing of massage professionals is generally overseen by
A.
the regulatory
C.
board. A, the
Yeah.
regulatory board. Yeah. Being licensed in one city or state, that's okay. Blank, yeah, does not guarantee validation in another location. The minimum education requirement for the National Certification of Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork Board certification is
C?
it's a D, 750 hours. A document awarded in recognition of achieving or maintaining a set standard is
License.
C.
certificate.
Certification.
Certificate.
It's a certification.
Or
So that's what you'll get at the
certificate.
end of schooling, your certificate. Completing a course of study or passing an examination results in?
That's the licensing. B.
B.
No, that one's
No?
actually A.
Okay, I had A. Crap. Those
Yeah.
ones are kind of tricky.
Yeah, they are. It's a little confusing how to determine between them, but basically graduating from school, passing your finals, getting your grades all satisfactory within the realm of acceptable, which for us is a C or above, results in a certification. Certificates can be awarded by all of the following except,
D.
yeah, government agencies. They don't do those. A document issued by regulatory agency that is required to practice a trade or profession is?
D. License.
That's license. Yep. A document awarded for achieving or maintaining some standard or accomplishment is?
Certificate. B.
Yep.
B.
Certificate. Good. So we're kind of, in some ways, it's fun to say this to people too. In some ways, we're kind of like doctors or lawyers. We have to be licensed to practice in each state. So we might be licensed in Illinois after we graduate. If you're moving to Arizona, Diana,
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
the first state with a reciprocal license. So they just recently changed it. If you move there and change your residency, they just transfer your license. It's really easy. But other states, it's not that hard. It just might involve a few more classes, and then you can pay their fees and you'll be licensed in that state. So scope of practice is defined in
Licensing regulation.
E.
licensing regulations. B. A systemized and organized attempt to test if a hypothesis has validity is
Research.
research.
Scientific method research.
Yeah. A practice that is based on clients' wishes, clinical experience, and current scientific evidence is?
Evidence-informed practice.
Yeah. And I've heard the term before this. I'd heard more often evidence-based practice, which I like that too. Maybe it doesn't have a specific set acronym, EBP, but you could use either one and people would understand by hearing it that that's what you're doing, is you're basing your practice on evidence. Phrases or words to help in the search for relative articles is known as?
Keywords.
Keyword.
Keyword. Yep. A condensed version of a research paper that includes background, objectives for the report, case presentation, and discussion of the results is called an?
Abstract.
Yep, abstract. Research involving a number of subjects randomly divided into treatment groups, one being a control group and others receiving treatments, so that the comparisons can be made regarding the effectiveness of the treatment are known as?
Randomized
controlled
controlled trials.
Yeah, all together now. Randomized control trials. Good. When two or more of the studies referred to in question 6, wait, that's question 6. It must
I
be
know,
in
I was
question
confused.
5. Yeah, I think they mean in question 5. Where's my red pen? Here we go.
So, excuse me, what was the answer for 5?
It was randomized controlled trials.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Sure. So when two or more randomized controlled trials are defined and statistically analyzed, it's called?
Meta-analysis.
I put scope of practice, but I knew that was wrong.
It's meta-analysis. So a meta-analysis is going to be a study of a bunch of studies. They're really cool because they give you a lot of data. You can see a bigger trend over a bigger group of people. We'll talk about a lot of those when we get into nutrition, but there's some in massage therapy, I'm sure, too. So we'll look for those. They're interesting. Okay, so I will read these letters in order, okay? So we're trying to determine between preliminary research, clinical expertise, randomized controlled trials, meta-analysis, and case reports from the highest to the lowest reliability. So highest is A, very reliable, and then E is the lowest. So A, the highest reliability is meta-analysis. B, alpha, beta, the randomized controlled trials, second level. C is preliminary research, so you're doing it yourself. You did the interviews, you did the scientific study. Then D is a case report. So you read somebody's story about what they did in their practice, and this is what happened. And then E is your clinical experience. Well, I've had several different clients with this, and this is what I noticed. Just basically like anecdotal evidence, but things that you've experienced in your own practice.
Just real quick, that was CEBAD.
CEBAD. Yep.
Cool. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, and then I'm going to read some letters here again for the last section to match up the description with the section of a case report. So it should be Foxtrot, Echo, Alpha, Charlie, Delta, Bravo.
Cool.
Got it. Got it. Cool. Okay, how are we doing on time? Oh, we still have maybe 10 minutes left to get to an hour. Not that we have to get to an hour, but I did tell you the other day that I would give you some more palpation. I think only a couple of you have done it so far, but hopefully you're thinking soon about doing your palpation of the spine exercises on a family member. That'll be really good. Usually in lab, we would start doing this in probably week 2, trying to start getting our hands on each other and feeling these landmarks. So you can try to do it along with the volunteer right now if you want to, or you can just watch this later once you have a volunteer, forward it to about 50 minutes in to this call, and then you can start doing it along with these words. I'm going to read you some palpation instructions from the Trail Guide to the Body. So when you are trying to find the nape of the neck, this is what you're going to do. We left off with the previous call with your client in supine position, so that's what this is going to do as well. So you could do this on the floor, you could do this on a bed. If you have a table, this would be great for that. So you're going to be sitting or standing at the head of the table and with your hands underneath the client's head in a supine position. So what you're feeling for are the spinous processes, those ones that stick straight out the back of the cervical vertebrae. The spinous processes of C3 to C6 protrude posteriorly to approximately the same level, the same extent. The process of C2, however, is larger and more distinct. The tips of the cervical spinous processes are all deep to the ligamentum nuchae, a flat ligament attaching to the processes and running superiorly to the occiput. And remember that C1 does not have a spinous process, so there's a little indent there, and then you'll find that more prominent process of C2. With the partner supine, locate the spinous process of C7. That's the one that sticks out the most here at the base of the neck. Using gentle pressure, explore the tips and sides of the other cervical processes. Strum transversely across the dense ligamentum nuchae that spans the tips of the spinous processes. Continue superiorly until you reach the prominence of C2. And I'm doing this on myself. You can also do this while you listen and feel for those spots. As you explore the spinous processes, passively flex, extend, and rotate the neck. So I'm doing it actively. On a client, you would passively rotate them and passively move their head in flexion and extension. Can you feel the subtle ridge formed by the processes along the back of the neck? When exploring the spinous process of C2, are you inferior to the level of the earlobes? Is the process of C2 larger and more pronounced than that of the other cervicals? Being able to differentiate between the spinous process of C2 and the external occipital protuberance can be helpful when navigating the posterior neck. Begin by laying your fingers horizontally along the base of your partner's head. Place your ring finger at the external occipital protuberance while locating the spinous process of C2 with your index finger. Your middle finger will lie between these two structures at the level of C1. Explore the distance between these prominent landmarks. While you're trying to find that on yourself, I'm going to grab an article about the external occipital protuberance, which I think is kind of funny. I found it like a couple years ago, and I really have enjoyed reading it to students because it was just from, I don't know, like Yahoo or MSN News or something, but it was so relevant I had to print it out and read it. Where did I keep it? It's in this binder here somewhere. Oh, not that binder, this binder. There we go. Please stand by. Got a lot of papers in my dining room right now, y'all. Oh boy, let's see it. After all that, where is it? Well, that's what I get for trying to show you something I didn't have prepared. Okay. I don't know. Maybe I'll find it before our 1 o'clock roll. We'll see. Okay, so we had talked about that before. I think in the end of the last call where we did trail guide palpation. It's important to know that compression or impingement of the brachial plexus or one of its nerves can create sharp shooting sensation going down the arm. This occurs, immediately release what you're squeezing or pushing on and adjust your position posteriorly. Always ask your client for feedback, your partner or your client. They can tell you if something feels really good or if it feels kind of weird. And then that will help you start gathering data because you'll ask that to everybody you massage, you know, at the beginning of your work so that you can start gathering what feels really good. What do I like when I get this stuff done to me? And then you can build a case for your best flow of massage. All your best moves highlighted together in one flow. And then you customize it based on each person's needs and that kind of stuff after you start each massage. The transverse processes, or TVPs, of the cervical vertebrae are located on the side of the neck. Old Hollywood films put Frankenstein's monster neck bolts into his TVPs. The TVPs extend inferiorly from the mastoid process, and many are deep to the sternocleidomastoid muscle. So that's that. So if I'm laying down and I lift my head up, this muscle does that. It's kind of harder when I'm already sitting up, but this is the sternocleidomastoid, the SCM. Okay, all of the TVPs are the same width except for the TVPs of C1, which are much wider. So C1 doesn't have a spinous process, it has wider transverse processes. The TVPs of C1 are located just distal and anterior to the tip of the mastoid process. So the mastoid process, my earring is too big today, it's covering it up. Mastoid process, behind the masseter and the mandible, there's a process back here, sticks out kind of behind the ear. You can feel it, it sticks out. It's a little bump right there, and that's the mastoid process. So the TVPs of C1 are just distal and anterior, so lower or out farther from the center and in front of the tip of that. So they are relatively accessible. All of the TVPs serve as attachment sites for various muscles, including the scalenes and levator scapula. The brachial plexus, which is the large group of nerves that innervates the arm and exits through the TVPs. When first accessing the TVPs, use the flat of your thumb or finger pads. So you want to use your flat of your thumb or the pads of your fingers. And then as your palpation skills improve, you can explore the TVP surfaces more superficially. Or more specifically, I mean. With your partner supine, place your fingers on the side of the neck below the earlobes. Use your flat thumb pad to slide anteriorly and posteriorly to feel the ridge of TVPs. Explore the length of the neck. Can you find them on yourself? You might not feel the tips of individual processes, but the ridge formed by the TVPs underneath the overlying tissue instead. Are you palpating inferiorly to the earlobe Do you feel a subtle ridge running down the side of the neck? If you passively flex, laterally flex, or rotate the neck, can you feel the TVPs move individually? With your partner supine, you can rotate the head 45 degrees to the right. With the head in this position, the TVPs form a line from the left mastoid process to the center of the shaft of the clavicle. So they're all in the line between those. Draw an imaginary line from these two landmarks and visualize and palpate the TVPs along the path. The transverse process of C1. With your partner in supine or seated, locate the left mastoid process of the temporal bone and rotate the head 45 degrees to the right. Using your broad finger pad, slide slightly inferiorly and anteriorly from the mastoid process. Explore deep to the sternocleidomastoid muscle for the solid bump of the transverse process of C1. Even pressing slightly on these points can be uncomfortable for your partner, so use a soft touch. For reference, locate the other transverse process of C1. That'll be on the other side. Same process. Does feel kind of weird when I push on it real hard to get in there, so use caution when doing it on somebody else. And then the cervical lamina groove, we can find that from the supine position as well as prone. The lamina groove is that trough-like space between the spinous processes and the TVPs. That's a kind of curved trough all along the spine. So from the back, from the prone position, we'll see that groove and we can feel right along it. Although sizable on a skeleton, the lamina groove of your partner is filled with layers of muscle, which render it almost inaccessible. The lamina groove is best thought of as a helpful region for locating muscle bellies. So mostly when you feel it on a person, you're going to feel muscles there, not the groove that's on a skeleton. Cervical lamina groove. So with your partner supine still, scoop the head with one hand, and with your other hand, you can locate the cervical transverse process. So you can feel those sides of the neck on the sides of the cervical vertebrae on each side, TVPs, and then slide posteriorly off the TVPs. So you're going toward the spine. Explore the space between the transverse and spinous processes, which constitutes the lamina groove of the cervical vertebrae. Again, since the groove is filled with muscles, that the bone that forms the groove is impalpable. There's a picture here I'll show you of a schematic cross-section of the neck as if your partner were supine. The lamina groove can be thought of as being in the neck's southeast and southwest quadrants. So I'll show you here. So the lamina groove is the space here between the spinous process and the transverse process. If there was no muscles on it, your thumb would just slide right into that groove. As it is, your erector spinae group, your spinal erector muscles to help you straighten up your spine are in there. So they're going to feel more like a muscle, a long strip of muscles on each side of the spine. Pardon me. C6 has a large anterior tubercle called the carotid tubercle. Its name corresponds to the carotid artery that passes immediately lateral to it. Although you would not want to, you can occlude the carotid artery by placing your finger lateral to the cricoid cartilage and pressing in a posterior direction against the carotid tubercle. Long ago, this dramatic maneuver was used in emergency rooms as a last-ditch effort to stem hemorrhaging inside the skull. So this is something you wouldn't want to do. I want you to know about it so that you don't accidentally do it. But pressing right against the lamina groove at C7, at C6 is not good. Impinges the carotid artery. And then getting into feeling more of the spine, if you're following along with a volunteer, have them flip over to be prone. So they're going to be face down. So if you have a table, it's got a face cradle. That's even the most easy thing. If you don't have one of those and you're doing it on the floor or on a bed or something like that, you want to have a towel or a travel pillow or something under their forehead so that they don't have to be suffocated, but they can keep their spine straight while they're laying face down and still be able to breathe. So we're going to follow this trail of it's called the buried boulevard, the transverse processes of the thoracic and lumbar vertebrae. So we've done the cervicals, we're going to go down the spine and feel the rest of it. The TVPs of the thoracic vertebrae are shorter and do not extend as far laterally as the TVPs of the lumbar vertebrae. They are palpable deep to the erector spinae muscles and superficial to the connecting aspect of the ribs. The TVPs of the lumbar vertebrae are also deep to the erector spinae. Extending an inch or two laterally, their solid presence can be felt beneath the overlying muscle tissue. So what we're going to do is standing on the side of the table or on the side of our client, or kneeling on the side of our client if they're on the floor or on a bed and if they're not at the edge. You're going to try to use 3 finger pads to span between the TVPs with your middle finger falling on the spinous process. So you're going to try to see if you can feel them with your fingers. In a prone position, locate a portion of the thoracic spinous processes. Move roughly 1 inch laterally and sink your fingers through the thick erector spinae muscles. Roll your fingers superiorly and inferiorly, palpating for the TVP's subtle knobby shape. And then slide further laterally from the thoracic transverse processes and onto the posterior ribs. Can you determine where the ribs and transverse processes meet? Can you feel the short processes between the erector spinae fibers? So the fibers of those muscles are going to be in the way, but you might be able to feel the tips of those transverse processes right at the edge where those ribs are meeting up with them. And then I'll show you a picture of it just to give you some time and to give you a visual. Now if I can get it to focus more. So you're going to be feeling for these landmarks. And then for the lumbar transverse processes, lower down on the back, still in prone position, locate the lumbar spinous processes. Parts that stick straight out the back. Slide roughly 2 inches laterally to avoid the thick mound of the erector spinae muscles. And then slowly sink your fingers through the muscle tissue, directing your pressure at a medial angle, an anterior angle, as if toward the belly button, the navel. Explore the tips of the transverse processes. Because of those thick overlying tissues, the individual processes might not be directly palpable, but try to sense the solid ridge that they form. So the transverse processes you won't feel exactly, but you can see a ridge, maybe you can feel solidness below the fingers. And then test this out. Ask your partner to raise her feet slightly to determine whether you are lateral to the erector spinae muscles. So when they raise their feet, those muscles are going to stick further out. See if you're already lateral to that or if your fingers are going up with those muscles. Can you feel the hard surface of the process running horizontally? With your partner prone, you can palpate the transverse processes of the lumbar vertebrae. This picture here. So the 12th rib is here, the sacrum is here, and these are the lumbar TVPs. And then superior views, looking down toward the spine, accessing it with your thumb here. Okay, so the sacrum and pelvis are here. These are those transverse processes. And then the lamina groove of the thoracic and lumbar vertebrae will be the last section here. Excuse me. The lamina groove of the thoracic and lumbar vertebrae is located between their spinous and transverse processes, just like the lamina groove of all of it is that side between spinous process and transverse process. Shaped like a long vertical trough, the lamina groove expands in depth and width as it progresses down the spine. As the bones get bigger, right? In the thoracic and lumbar vertebrae, the lamina groove is filled with the layers of the erector spinae and transversospinalis muscles. Because of this overlying tissue, the lamina groove is difficult to access directly, but its borders, the spinous and transverse processes, are palpable. So here's a picture of the the lateral superior view, accessing the lamina groove of the thoracic vertebrae. And the muscles are overlying in the groove, so I'll show you. First of all, this is best access prone. The person's fingers are pointing towards the lamina groove. It's red because there's going to be muscles in there, but this is the groove showing you. And then here are the muscles. It looks pretty dark on my screen, so I'm sorry. I hope it's not too dark to see. The muscles that are overlying the groove are going to feel differently than just the bone by itself. Okay. With your partner prone, locate the spinous processes of the thoracic vertebrae. Thoracic is the middle of the back. With the other hand, locate the transverse processes of the thoracic vertebrae. So keep one hand on the spinous process and then feel with the other hand, where's the TVP? And then using a firm pressure, explore between those landmarks in the lamina groove. Note that there's thick muscle tissue that lies in that groove. Try this in the same method with the lumbar region, lower back. Explore and observe how the lamina groove widens and deepens, and how the muscle tissue is thicker in this region compared with the muscle tissue in the thoracic region. Check yourself here. Are you between the transverse and spinous processes of the vertebrae? Can you slide your fingers between the muscle fibers and sink into the lamina groove? Then I'm going to show you a lateral and superior view accessing the lamina groove of the lumbar vertebrae. And muscles are overlying the groove again. So sacrum and pelvis are up here. This is the 12th rib, the rest of the rib cage. So finding this groove with your fingertips, it's actually over layers of muscle that push against that groove as you palpate between them in the lamina groove. Okay, so the muscle fibers are going to be running vertically along the spine, up and down, and you're going to be palpating transversely across them. So you'll feel that muscle fiber going at a different direction. So I would like you to give that a try and write about it in your palpation journals. So there's a previous video where you also have this similar assignment, and then this one I'm going to add another assignment. So I want you to try this out and write about what did you feel? Was it interesting? Was it hard to do? What part of it was hard? What did it feel like? And did you try it on multiple people? And was there a difference? I want to see how your palpation feelings are going along. So since I can't see you doing it as easily as in class, I want you to write about it and then share that with me by posting a picture in the assignment of your palpation journal. Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, Diana, I do have a question. So besides the video that you posted about that, is there somewhere in our theory and practice book where that information is at as well?
No, not really. Okay. This is just from the trail guide.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
I wish you guys were, that you had, but we didn't get them approved in time for this class. So, no, I would just recommend reading or like listening along with the video and then trying to follow along with the instructions that I'm giving as you're doing it.
From you or from the video with the guy?
For them, the video with the guy, he doesn't go over that part exactly.
Okay.
So these are different than the videos online.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Order that or a book that has the information that you read from.
Yeah, if you want to order it, I recommend it highly. I think you'll always get a lot of good use out of this. As a massage therapist, you'll use it forever. So it's a worthwhile purchase. It's a little bit pricey, but it's
Is that the book that I just purchased?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
And it does have
of the name of the book in the team chat.
Yeah, sure. I will. I'll make a post about it in the general posts because you'll probably want to see that again. And this does have workbooks that go with it. So if you're really wanting to get extra study, I think it's so well laid out. It's really helpful. So I recommend the workbooks too.
Very excited about getting that.
Good. I'm excited about you being excited to get it. I'm excited for you to get it too. I think they're awesome. So, okay, that'll be it for this call. I'll see you guys at 1.
Okay, we'll see you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.